Imagine you're swimming in the ocean. It's peaceful, the sky is blue, the sun is shining, and suddenly you see a dark shadow in the water beneath you. What do? You get out of the water fast. Your brain has identified a pattern, a dark, shifting shadow beneath the murky surface, and it reacts instantly. Congratulations, you're a pattern seeker, and you're alive because of it. Even if it's just seaweed or your own shadow, our brains jump to the worst case scenario, shark. That's pattern recognition, and our ancestors needed it to survive. If they heard rustling in the bushes, they didn't stop to debate whether or not it was the wind or a lion. They ran, and those that ran lived long enough to pass those traits down to us. But we don't just spot scary patterns. Sometimes our brains love patterns so much, we often find them where they don't even exist. We could look up into the sky and see a random collection of water molecules and say, hey, that one looks like a dog wearing sunglasses. People will swear that they see the Virgin Mary in a piece of toast. Gamblers playing roulette will bet confidently and heavily on black after they've seen a streak of red roulette wheel spins. And finding patterns where they don't exist is called apophenia, or the tendency to find meaning in randomness. It's harmless when we're spotting dogs in clouds, but potentially dangerous if it causes doctors to miss or underdiagnose a patient's diagnosis because they found a false pattern in randomness. This is where cognitive bias enters the picture. I am an internal medicine physician with a focus on creating and implementing AI solutions for the health system. If you think of your brain like a computer, cognitive biases are like bugs in its software. They cause us to process information and make decisions in ways that are not always accurate or logical. One common bug is called availability bias, or the tendency when making decisions to rely heavily on what comes most easily to mind, typically because it just occurred. So imagine a doctor in flu season. He sees 5 patients with fever, fatigue, muscle aches, and cough. All 5 have the flu. But then comes the 6th patient. Now, the doctor's brain, influenced by availability bias, may instinctively just assume that this patient has the flu also, when they could have something much more serious. That's how cognitive biases, like availability bias, can lead even the most skilled doctor to make potentially life-threatening mistakes. Artificial intelligence is the world's fastest, most accurate pattern detector. It can process more data in seconds than we could in a lifetime. It never sleeps, and it never gets tired. You could think of AI like an overeager, over-caffeinated July 1st intern. Someone who's super keen to help, but has no idea what's happening. Numeracy is the ability to understand and work with numbers. Probability is the likelihood that an event will occur. If you're rolling 2 dice, which outcome is more likely, a 7 or a 12? Most people get this, it's a 7, because there's 6 ways to roll a 7, but only 1 way to roll a 12, double 6s. Now say you're at the craps table, and you roll 4 12s in a row. What's more likely, that this happened just by chance, or that someone rigged the dice? And once that idea is in your head, you're not thinking about math or probability anymore. You're thinking drama, suspicion, intent. And that's the issue. We are terrible at holding on to our numeracy and objectively understanding probability when emotions creep in. Sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, occurs in approximately 1 in every 8,000 births. In 1999, Sally Clark, a British mother whose 2 children tragically died from SIDS, was charged with 2 counts of their murder. An expert in court wrongly testified that the probability of 2 children from the same family dying from SIDS was 1 in 73 million, a practical impossibility. The problem? His math was wrong. He treated each event as unrelated, like 2 independent rolls of the dice. But in reality, if 1 child in a family dies from SIDS, the probability that a second could die from SIDS sadly increases to 1 in only 60. The jury didn't understand this. They, like the expert witness, saw a very scary pattern. 2 babies from the same woman dead, and assumed it had to be murder, despite the lack of any physical evidence. But by the time anyone caught this mistake, Sally Clark spent 3 years wrongly imprisoned. Her life was destroyed. 4 years after being released from prison, she was found dead, alone in her home from alcohol intoxication. All because humans, hijacked by their emotions, identified a false pattern in randomness. Now, AI seems like the perfect solution to overcome these errors from our cognitive biases because it doesn't get emotional. It just follows the math. But here's the catch. We train AI on human data. So all of our poor decisions that we've made is what AI is learning from. So they will inevitably absorb all of our flaws. But these are not glitches, they're reflections. AI mirrors our past decisions. And if left unchecked, it will encode and amplify them indefinitely. We like to think of machines as being neutral, but they can only be as objective as the data we feed them. When working alone, AI makes mistakes because it lacks human understanding. Humans, meanwhile, make emotional mistakes because we find meaning in patterns where none exist. In the peak of this past flu season, my best friend had fever, fatigue, muscle aches, and cough. The same symptoms that 5 of his friends had who were all diagnosed with the flu. The urgent care doctor said, "The flu's going around. It's probably that or some other viral infection. Just get some rest, stay hydrated." When his symptoms persisted, he asked ChatGPT, "Hey, ChatGPT, what's causing my fever, fatigue, muscle aches, and cough?" And ChatGPT said, "Well, the most likely cause is probably the flu or some other viral infection. But given the duration of your symptoms and your age, these could be signs of something more serious, like leukemia." That's when my friend called a human, me. And something just didn't sound right. So I sent him for blood work, and when the results came back, the diagnosis was made of acute myeloid leukemia. So AI objectively evaluated these symptoms, and while it agreed that a viral infection was the most likely cause, it surfaced additional potential diagnoses that the urgent care doctor may not have considered at the time. So the good news is that the urgent care doctor is not a villain in this story. AI isn't the hero. It's a partnership between AI and doctors that allowed my friend to be correctly diagnosed. So the next time you're looking up at the clouds and you see a random collection of water molecules in the sky, smile. That is your beautiful, imperfect brain at work. But when decisions are high stakes, we need more than just imagination. We need collaboration. We need human intelligence, and we need artificial intelligence. Together, we can create a world far safer and better than either of us could create alone. So while apophenia is real, don't completely discount what your brains are telling you, because sometimes it's just a dog in sunglasses. Thank you.